Welcome to Yury Experience, and today I will talk to you again about how to debate in vegetarian field. I already did one video about how to debate in vegetarian field, and there I discussed three topics. These were ethics, religion and nutrition health. And briefly, ethics and religion, if the person is discussing with you vegetarianism or veganism because of ethical or religious reasons, please don't discuss vegetarianism. Discuss religion if you want to do that, but you are not discussing vegetarianism. You're discussing religion or ethical reasons. It's kind of not the point of that conversation. And in terms of nutrition, yes, vegetarian diet is very healthy, it's one of the healthiest diets there are, but it is not alone on that position of the healthiest diet. And there are also diets that have some meat in them or some animal products that are also healthy, which is why health shall not be a reason to switch to vegetarian diet. It may be, but it doesn't have to. There are enough other diets that are healthy. If you want to watch that video, please, the link shall be in description. But today we'll be talking about vegetarianism and ecology. Because ecology is also a very important topic where vegetarianism or vegetarian type of nutrition or creation of animal products is a really important topic which influences everybody's life. Your, mine, Peter's, everybody's. But before we go there, this is Yury Experience. I'm Yury and this is my experience, and here I'm talking about different topics, social topics, self-development and whatnot. A lot of things that are in my mind and that I want to share with you. I do 2 videos per week, Mondays and Thursdays. And if you will enjoy this video, please drop a like, please subscribe, that will help the development of the channel. Let's go! Another important point prior I'm really going into the video, this shall be your starting point. Similarly as my previous video about vegetarianism, there's a lot of stuff that you can learn except for the knowledge that I provide you. There is a lot of information that you can find, and not all of that information is really difficult to understand. Some of that is, some of that not. So this video shall, and I hope it will be, a starting point for your journey on understanding why. Why is vegetarianism important? Is vegetarianism important? Is it important for nutrition? Is it important for ecology? A lot of things that I'm talking about here are somehow connected to my subjective point of view, because I cannot completely go away from my subjective point of view. And although I do try to provide information in more or less objective manner, but I'm still opinionated person, because I'm a human being. That is why build your own opinion. Let this video be a starting point and jump and go in there. Good luck in there. Now we start. Let's start with a big point. Production of animal-based products, also animal foods, is bad for environment. Point. There is no but, there's not anything else. We can discuss to which degree it is bad, but it is bad for environment, at least how it is done right now. It is not sustainable because of a couple of reasons, I will say them in a moment, and it damages environment in different ways. Example number one, land use. A lot of land is used for cattle, so cattle can walk around and eat something, or sometimes just graze around. Also, not only cattle, but also pigs and chickens. Also, every animal that will be eaten needs space. Similarly, actually, with fish. But except for that, we also use a lot of space to grow plants that we then feed animals. Some of these plants we can eat, some of the plants we cannot eat, but nowadays a lot of these are given to animals, so animals have something to eat. But these plants need space, which is why it leads to a lot of problems with space, a lot of problems with quality of earth, of soil, and some other problems like erosion and stuff like that. Not good things, and definitely bad thing in terms of ecology. Obvious one, water usage. Animals need water, everybody needs something to drink, we are also animals, we also need water, and animals need more water than plants, at least on average, if we are talking over all plants or all animals. Which is why, yeah, we are using a hell lot of water for animals. And that is not good too, because, you know, water is not indefinite resource. This resource is definite. We don't have a lot of water that we can just throw around. No, we don't. Then we have this all good green gas emissions. And yes, cattle produce a lot of green gases because they fart, as a matter of fact. And that's a bad thing because it influences our atmosphere and what it consists of. And that leads to disruption of ozone layer, and that is not a good thing because thanks to that sun rays can go straight ahead to the earth without being filtered through the atmosphere, and that is bad for everybody. And another influence of greenhouse emissions is increasing the amount of CO2 in the atmosphere, which increases the temperature of the earth. And again, we have this all good topic of planet heating. I forgot what's the name, I will put it here. And the last example that I will give, and that there are a lot of other examples, you can find all of them on the internet, it's not that difficult, is the reduction of biodiversity. Because we need space in order to grow something or grow some animals or whatnot, we destroy some ecosystems. And it's not a good thing, because that is why animals that are living in these ecosystems die. And there are some types of animals that are not existing anymore thanks to human beings, and it's, in my personal opinion, slight evolution of the earth, how it just goes, but also our influence is slightly too big to be considered, oh, it's just humans. No, it's already slightly too big. And by the way, it's not only about animals, about cattle, about mainly cattle is the biggest problem, but also fish. Our influence on fish and fish varieties and biodiversity in fish is also incredibly high. Why do we need biodiversity? Because biodiversity helps nature to stay in a good state. I forgot the word, like in equilibrium, and only thanks to different kinds of plants and animals or mushrooms or whatnot, or fungi, nature can do it. And if we cut away some part of it, then the other part becomes bigger or smaller. A small example why biodiversity is important. For example, we cut away some part of the wood and there were a lot of rabbits. And now there are no rabbits. That is why wolves who fed on these rabbits will die. And that is why some other animals who were connected to wolves will not exist anymore, and that will lead to some disruption or in plants ecosystem and whatnot, and everything is connected, which leads to the fact that at some point that all connection will lead to us and to our problems that we will need to deal with, and it's better to prevent than to react, in my personal opinion. Another point that is important to say is the fact that animal products consumption, being it food or like not food, will only increase over time. It is connected to two factors. First, amount of population of humanity on Earth. It will grow over time because we don't really have any reasons to die out. That's how good our life is right now. And the second reason is more economical. People in developed countries eat more meat than people in developing countries, and that is connected to wealth. People can afford to eat meat, and over time more countries will come in the state of developed countries, and more people will have an ability to afford to eat some meat. That is why meat consumption will grow, which leads to the fact that we need to find a solution. We need to think how to deal with it, because meat production is bad. Meat consumption, if we go the way we are going right now, will not decrease, which means the problems will only rise and collect themselves. A lot of people would say, okay, let us go vegetarian, all of us. And I'm staying here to tell you, no, it's not completely a solution. Even if people would agree with that and saying, okay, let us all go vegetarian, and even including the fact that there is some food that is produced currently for animals and not for us, which we could, in theory, eat, that doesn't mean that we will have enough food production for all humanity, including all nutrition value that we need to provide. Food is not just something that we need to eat. We need to eat different kinds of food, so we have enough of different stuff. And meat has place in our food pyramid, however you want to put it. Which is why substituting fully with vegetarian food will be difficult. And except for that, vegetarian nutrition is also not wholly in terms of ecology. You need to transport foods. You also need to transport other foods, but with meat you all normally don't need to transport it for a long distance. But since a lot of vegetables and not vegetables, fruits are dependent on seasons, you need sometimes to transport them from different countries, sometimes around the globe, which leads to the fact that it is not really ecologically good. Another problem that I kind of touched on a bit, which is connected to our nutritional needs that we need to meet as a society, as each individual human, is the problem of monocultures. Earth or soil doesn't really like it when, in most of the cases, when some kind of culture is grown in there for a prolonged period of time, like over the years and whatnot. And the problem is that humanity will need a lot of special plants in order to cover their needs. For example, there are not so many good protein sources among plants, which are really good, which are comparable to animal products. Which is why we'll need them in big amounts in order for all of us to remain in our in good state of body and nutrition and health. That will lead to the fact that some space will be that we need a lot of this product. For example, soy. Soybeans is something that has pretty good protein value, but you cannot grow it everywhere, which means that at some spaces you will only grow soybeans for decades. And that is not a good thing for soil, and at some point it will not work out anymore. Yay! And also there is this old good fact that some of the veggies do need a lot of water or a lot of whatnot, which is why they're considered ecologically bad veggies, because they have bad influence on ecology. Avocados are a great example. Avocados need a lot of water in order to grow properly. And I think, for example, cashews and almonds, I'm not sure what exactly was the problem, I will write it here, but they're also problematic in terms of ecology. So yes, it is extremely difficult. On the one hand, animal products are bad for ecology. It is a fact. At least how we produce them right now in this mass production values amounts. On the other hand, going full vegetarian will not be sustainable anyway, and it's not really practical, and also goes a little bit against our nature as animals, as carnivorous animals. Which is why it will be difficult for us to remain healthy if our whole society will go vegetarian. And I'm not even talking about the people who have, for example, bowel syndrome, who cannot go full vegetarian because they will die. Yeah. So what can be the solution? I read a couple of solutions today and I made small summary, and obviously a lot of information that I provided to you today I read today or in recent days, just so you know. So anyway, part one of the solution is to eat less animal-based products. Less meat, less fish, less dairy, less eggs, less whatnot. Less of it. A couple of clarifications. Clarification number one, there was a study where scientists compared ecological footprint of omnivorous person, so person who eats everything, person who eats vegetarian diet, and person who eats vegan diet. So not one person, but groups of people. And they found out that on average, people who eat vegetarian diet and people who eat vegan diet leave approximately the same ecological footprint. Which is why you don't really have to go vegan to be better in terms of ecology. You can be vegetarian if you want to. And by the way, there were at least a couple of people who eat vegetarian diet but had higher ecological footprint than some omnivorous people. which means you are not holy just because you eat vegetarian diet. Just leaving it there. And second clarification, when I say reduce, the amount that people were talking about was poultry or fish once a week and cattle meat, like rind cow meat, I forgot how it's called, once per month. So yeah, the amounts are really low. When I'm saying reducing, I'm saying reducing, like reducing. Second point, speaking of cow meat, I eat grass-fed and free-range beef because it is better for ecology. Number one why it is better grass-fed, because people cannot consume grass. I mean, we can, but it will not help us in any way. But cows can consume grass and make meat out of it. So basically they create energy out of nothing, or at least out of nothing that is helpful for us. I think it makes sense. So yes, grass-fed is good for ecology because because these cows don't consume any food that we could in theory consume. And free range is also sometimes good for soil if it is not overgrazed. There's the risk of overgrazing. It's when cattle moves around way too much, but on small amounts it is actually rather good for earth, for soil, for both. And the third point, which is good for ecological and for financial reasons, eat or buy local foods or local meat, local fish, local vegetables, and or wild meat, so something that was hunted. And also don't buy veggies out of season. These all 3 points are connected. Yeah, if you do that, so I think it makes sense. If you buy locally, there's a high probability that animals were treated better, and also which means that there are not many animals because you cannot treat very well a lot of animals. Which is why it will lead to more sustainable kind of fishing, cattle handling and whatnot. And now I will say my opinion. Prior to now that was more like knowledge and my opinion, and now I will say my opinion mostly. First, in terms of ecology, and based on my understanding, the biggest influence that you can have personally on ecology is actually reducing your meat consumption. It's not riding less car riding, less motorcycle riding, it is eating less meat. It is slightly strange, but it actually makes sense if you think about it, how much products and how much stuff is going into meat production. But it doesn't mean that us eating less meat will solve our ecology problems. Only because we will do our thing, that doesn't mean the system will change. And I mean system, not only nutritional system, because a system of food and drinks will need to follow us. If you eat less meat, then system will produce less meat. That makes sense, because if you don't want to eat it and they don't want to throw money away, at the end of the day all of that is capitalism and money, so they want to throw away their money, they will produce less meat. If you eat less meat, and if I'll eat less meat, and if that person eats less meat, that makes sense. But there are more than enough systems in our society that are bad for ecology, and it doesn't matter whether you eat food, some specific foods, or you don't eat some specific foods. It doesn't matter whether you ride a car or drive a car, or you're riding a motorcycle or not. It doesn't matter. So you can do your best, and I think it is a good thing to do your best, and it is a good thing to eat less animal products anyway. It is also better for your health overall. But so at least I would ask you nicely, I do my best, not to feel like a savior to the planet. You do your best and you have some small influence on the planet, and if all of us do our best, we will have small influence. But system is something that needs to change. It's not something that we can actually do alone. System overall. Different systems actually, different structures too. And except for that, speaking of systems, even if you and I can understand that yes, we need to eat less meat, that doesn't mean that there are a lot of locations in our world where eating less meat is not really an option. It is a question of survival. And that is a point where I will not ask a person to eat less meat so that person will die or will suffer. I don't see a reasoning in that too. There are a lot of locations where you cannot financially sustain vegetarian diet. And yes, some of them are in developed countries where it is difficult to come to the next supermarket, where it is easier to eat some cheap fast food because it's practically easier. So yes, even though a lot of people would understand and would see it, yes, it makes sense, but it doesn't mean that everybody is ready to do it. A lot of people have a lot of worries in their life, and maybe vegetarianism or eating less meat will not be their first priority. So yes, I completely agree. All of us need to eat less meat. I do my best too. I'm moving on my way to less meat. I don't think I will come to once per week at any point, but I'm not sure about that either. But I'm reducing my meat consumption. Currently, I'm around 1 kilogram or half a kilo, so between half a kilogram and kilogram of poultry per week. That is my amount, how much I eat. I don't eat red meat at all because I don't like to cook it, to be honest with you. I don't like the smell when you... yeah, that's the word. And that is why I don't really like to cook it, and also it is slightly more expensive, which is why I cannot afford it. Yeah, so I eat mostly poultry, and also I consume some dairy products and some eggs. But yeah, I'm on my way, and I think it will be a good thing for all of us to move in some direction. I don't believe that we in the next years will be able to go away from this overconsumption that we are having right now in all of the fields. It's not only food. So I hope that science will come into play and solve that problem, or at least make it more bearable. For example, there is now possible to buy artificial meat in restaurants, either in Hong Kong or in Singapore. I forgot where exactly. But the fact that artificial meat is making its appearance on this high scale, so in restaurants, it's actually kind of cool, and I think it has a lot of influence on